Dry Creek's only cop nearly stumbled while carrying the stretcher bearing young Peter's lifeless body. Ben Swanstrom looked in horror at the town mortician who gripped the other end. The hushed gathering of onlookers on the other side of the wide, tree-lined street emitted a collective gasp. Ben couldn't imagine anything more dreadful than dropping a corpse onto the ground. His mouth suddenly tasted of tinfoil, and it took all of his strength to quell the desperation jangling his nerves. Ben and Harold carefully deposited Peter with his parents and brother. It would be a tight fit for all 5 bodies to nestle in their own places in the back of the hearse. Stacking the bodies seemed as repulsive as separating the family. Ben turned from his macabre assessment of space to collect Samantha, the last of the Sweesaws. The soft crunch of his feet on the frozen grass seemed offensively loud in the awful stillness. On their reluctant trip to the back bedroom, Ben and Harold trudged through hallways lined with family pictures. In a few short steps, Samantha lost her front teeth, grew them back, and matured from gawkyhood to emerging beauty. The house was rife with sports equipment, games, and hobby paraphernalia, the stuff of life. It was painful to think it had all vanished as quickly and as finally as the snuffing of a match. Doc Hutchinson was standing at the side of Samantha's bed, shaking his mottled bald head. "She looks so peaceful. They're all dead." Numbly admiring the halo of golden brown hair splayed on her pillow, Ben said, awkwardly, "I don't think I've ever seen her without her ponytail." The frigid November wind reached through the window and lifted a strand of the halo, creating a false sense of life. The trio hesitated, as if they felt Samantha needed a moment. Even Harold, who had to be inured to collecting the dead after 33 years in the mortuary business, was reluctant. Ben broke the awkward silence. "As soon as we're finished here, I'll call Chuck Wissink. If he locates the gas leak, we shouldn't have to do autopsies. Their lips are pinker than normal, but I'm not sure I'd call them cherry-colored. I've only seen one case of carbon monoxide poisoning, and the lips were darker, so I suspect it's the furnace." Eyebrows raised, Ben glanced at Harold, who sighed and gently pulled back the flowered bedspread. Outside, the collection of neighbors murmured under starkly bare trees, conversations repeating and crossing like rounds of 3 blind mice. Of all the families, who didn't love the Sweesaws? Have you ever known George not to run down to his pharmacy at an odd hour if your kid was sick and needed something? Yeah, if not George, Mary. Hell, half the time if I had the flu, George would know more than Doc. And does anybody know better, kids? That's Samantha's ponytail, always bobbing. That girl never walked. Always skipping. Then, just as if the hand of God put his finger to his mouth, they quieted when Ben emerged from the house, transporting Samantha past her unlocked bike, parked by the garage. By putting her 2 younger brothers end to end, the men were able to gently ensconce Samantha beside her family. Ben solemnly closed the back door and nodded at Harold as Ben turned back to the house. He noticed for the first time a crude white cross above the door mantel. It looked unfamiliar and out of place. He stopped and stared up at it. What the hell? That's weird. He was momentarily mesmerized and then shook himself.